Michele Kreinheder, but I go by Michele K professionally, and I'm a real estate agent in the lovely, beautiful town of Long Beach, California. And today I have past president of the Century Club, Dan Gooch, with me. And Dan's here. He's gonna give us a little bit of a lot of information, but we're gonna start with the history of the Long Beach Century Club. You're going to tell us, like, what the heck is the Long Beach Century Club? Because I've had people say to me, do you have to be 100 to be in it? Do you have to be 100 years old?
Almost.
And so Dan, if you could, and if you guys have any comments, I can see them, comment away. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the Century Club.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and it's always a pleasure to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is the Century Club. We started in 1957 as an offshoot of the Chamber of Commerce. There was a bunch of guys in the Chamber of Commerce, and there was all solely men when we started, who said, we want to focus on athletics as opposed to just the total Chamber of Commerce activities. And the Chamber said, well, we can make you a subcommittee. And they said, no, we don't want to be a subcommittee. They broke off.
Now, wait, you weren't there. Were you there? You weren't there in 57.
No,
yeah, I'm sorry.
I was in town, but
okay.
At that time I was 11 years old. So I'm old, but I'm not that old. So.
Was there one person that you think was the driving force in 57, or you don't, or is that?
Frank Vessels was one of our founders. He and Millie Vessels owned Los Alamitos racetrack, the quarter horse race out in Los Alamitos. And they and a few other folks, Frank did it, and a few others started the club. Okay. And in the Century Club, their main focus at that time was 100 men serving giving 100 hours of service and paying $100 of annual dues.
Yeah. Okay.
And it sounds, kind of, well, that's why we got the Century Club in the name. But I did a little research, and, $100 of 1957 money has purchasing power of $1,000.
Wow.
In today's money. So, these guys got together, and they were a bunch of, rough, tough, and hard drinking, cigar smoking, backroom deal making,
racetrack hanging out.
I couldn't repeat them all here, but, think about that, $1,000 equivalent to join.
Wow.
Over the years, I've been a member 37 years. And over the years, we've had individuals on our board of directors suggest that we raise the amount of money for dues, et cetera, et cetera. We've actually gone in reverse of that. We've actually reduced the amount for some of our members because we want to get as many active participants in the club as we can. And so the $100 has remained all these years as the initial. It used to be at a point in time we had $100, then there was an additional $150 because that got you a coat and a plaque. Well, about 15 years ago, everybody stopped wearing coats and, plaques. Everybody's got plaques. So we stopped that. So we knocked it down to $100. And then subsequently, a few years later, in 2009, we reduced it to a $50 membership for high school, middle school, and high school coaches and administrators, because we actively want them as part of our organization. So we've got a two-tiered fee of $50.
So I just want to ask you, did you say you got a coat? Did you say that?
Yeah. You went down to Umberto's and got a coat. And you know what?
Wow.
Mine somewhere here.
You have to find that. I want to see that.
One of our former presidents, Rich Foster, used to say, and this is certainly no slam on Umberto's, but he used to say, it's the only coat that you could spill mashed potatoes on, take it out in the back, hose it off, and you're good to go again. Those are some of the.
That's great that it's Umberto's. I just love that the whole thing is just so Long Beach. So before we just get into what Century Club does, I just want to tell my little personal story.
Sure,
okay. So Century Club does a middle school banquet for the for the sports that are the top winners, right? Like soccer or, track.
Basketball, football.
And so my daughter, when she was at Stanford, they won that year and we went to the banquet. It was at the Grand and it was awesome. I was like, oh my gosh, the kids were so excited and they got called up with their names and they got a plaque and there were so many people there. And I thought, who are these people that do this wonderful thing? So then years later, or not too many years later, I got my real estate license and I thought, I want to join some Long Beach community, organization. Seems like a good fit for a real estate agent, give back and meet people and all that. And so I looked into the Century Club and I went to a meeting, back in 2010, and you guys were at the Grand.
Yeah.
And I walked in and the only woman to be seen, I think even the servers were guys. And there were not that many people there. And it's really changed, right? It's like a different organization. So, I mean, just to kick you off, we do that middle school banquet that I think the guys that run that always say that, there's some kids that probably won't go on and play at a high school level. So to have that recognition it's just an awesome thing.
It's wonderful. Most of our high schools have are feeder schools now from the middle schools. It used to be junior high school program, and then they evolved with the middle schools. And if you think about it, just as you said, 5, 6 feeder schools going into one high school. Well, if you're a top athlete at a middle school, and then all of a sudden you go to a high school, you're competing with 5 other top athletes for that one spot on the team or teams that you are participating in. And as a result, just like you said, this could be the last time that these individuals, these kids, ever get recognized as an individual in their sport. But just a brief history of the middle school program. It started as the junior high school program, and in the good old days, the Century Club used to simply write a check for the amount of awards that were handed out to the junior high school, and then we'd give them to the school district, and then they would hand them out.
Okay.
Now around 84, 85, some of the members said, maybe there's a different way of doing this. And one of our former presidents, Sam Brooklander, he took up the lance and he said, well, we're going to do this a little differently. And he got a committee together, and for the last 34 years, he's put on the junior high / middle school program where we gather all the athletes together and actually give them awards for their teams. And it's evolved from his first session was out at the old police pistol range over at the
wow.
And we got some police dogs there to do some, entertainment, and it was real nice. And then it got so big that it evolved that it went to, we had to get it bigger, and it went to the Grand. And
because the Grand probably opened up in the 90s, correct? Right?
Grand opened up in 1984.
Oh my gosh.
And I know that, I'm sorry. 1974. 74. The Grand opened up. I'm getting my hotels confused. But the Grand was the old Elks.
Right. And then it changed over to the.
And I really don't know the year that it.
I think
I was thinking the Golden Sales over on PCH.
Yeah, I think it was the 90s, just because I was here. I came here in 89, and I just remember it being the Elks because my friend's father was. Yeah.
Well, just to put a little finer point on it, this year, we've had to post when we do a middle school program, a sports banquet, and a golf tournament, and a lot of these things had to be rescheduled because of the COVID. And our middle school program, which was originally scheduled for one date, is now going to occur on May 23rd. But Lisa Almer, who coordinates it for the school district, and Keith Hansen, who has now taken over from Sam Brooklander. Sam still got his hand in there, but Keith is kind of like the engine behind everything now, and he's principal at Wilson High, and so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, in any event, he and Lisa got together, or Lisa actually came up with this. Says, they want to participate, get more kids involved. So we had a third tier. There's a Division I, a Division II, and now we've added Division III. And before, where we would have 600 people at the Grand, we are now up to 900 people that
Oh, wow.
on May 23rd. So
Wow.
there's only a couple of venues in town that could accommodate them, and one of them is the Walter Pyramid at the university, and that's where we're.
Oh, that's where you're going to have it this year. Okay, May 23rd at the
We're going
pyramid.
to be cooking hot dogs out front, and the kids are all going to pile in, sitting in the different sections of the seats.
Do they tell them how many of the family members can come? Do they put a limit on it? Do they?
Well, you know what we tell them quite candidly is that your parents are invited. Okay, so you got a kid and maybe 2 or 3, depending on the social situation of the parents, because sometimes they have split parents and whatever.
Right.
But then in some instances, you know, the parents can't get there and leave other siblings behind, so they show up, you know, with 4 or 5 extra kids, and we've never turned anybody away. You know, we've never turned anybody away. So when they check in, and I know that you've been at the check-in table, when the athletes come up, you know, normally what you would see is parents taking control of their kids, and you know, which is wonderful and everything. But when they show up to our banquet, we want to speak to the athlete. And it's because the parents want to get in there and register. And we said, no, we want to talk to the athletes. So the athletes get an opportunity to get in there. So who are you? What school you're at? And who is with you tonight? You know, and they introduce their parents or their siblings if they had to, you know, to bring them. And I said, well, you know, you realize, of course, that dinner's on you tonight. You know.
Yeah, I've heard you make that joke.
Yeah. And the parents, they kind of go, oh, well, yeah. And the kid, you know, they kind of pop up and they go, yeah, you know, I'm here because that, you know. So,
it's just awesome. That's, like I said, that's what sort of, you know, roped me in and ended up on the board there for a few years.
Yeah, you were secretary and did yeoman service there.
Yeah, I had to look up and you said that. Yes, I did yeoman. But I do have up on the screen here, I think that the Hall of Fame banquet is probably it's unbelievable. You know, and it's unbelievable, not so much for what Century Club does. It's unbelievable for the athletes that come out of Long Beach. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, our sports banquet, which generally previously was held in January/February every year, we're now having it on June 20th this year because we've moved it, and we think in the future we're going to keep it there so that when we can honor the high school athletes,
they're there.
Honoring there for the fall and spring semester, and it was kind of bifurcated the way we've done it for 60 some years. You know, COVID had good things. Yeah, one of our former presidents, you know, and the editor of the 562, Mike Gartabasio, he helps us a great deal with the high school athletes, and he made that suggestion and said, "Hey, why don't we just switch it?" After 60, you go. Some of us,
change is hard. Change.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you know, our Hall of Fame banquet, our sports banquet, recognizes high school athletes individually in their sports, boys and girls, college athletes in their sports, men and women. We have a Hall of Fame where we induct individuals into our Hall of Fame. We recognize excellence the previous year by naming an athlete of the year. In some cases, we've had co-athletes, and in some cases, we've had triathletes of the year because of such outstanding. And you mentioned, you know, who is in our Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know, we have individuals. We have 149. I did a little research. You know, I don't have this off the top of my head. We have 149 individuals in our Hall of Fame, and they go back to as far back as 1957 when the first class was inducted. I've written them down here: Morley Drewley, Greta Anderson, Bob Lemon, Norm Stanley, and Pat McCormick. Those are the 5 initial members of our Hall of Fame. And since then, we've inducted a total of 149 individuals from all different sorts: auto racing, basketball, football. We've got lawn bowling champion, and we've had the individual who has sunk the most baskets in a row. You know, we've got, it goes the whole wide.
You know, I see here you have Jim McCormick for journalism,
Yes.
which I think anybody who's Yeah, been around. Just like, oh yeah, sports, Jim McCormick,
Former,
hand in
former,
hand.
sports editor, the Long Beach Press Telegram, wonderful guy. He's still around. And of the 149, we have 93 athletes of the year. So individuals that have been dominant in their sport for the previous year. And of the total of all of those, 36 of those individuals are both former athletes of the year and members of our Hall of Fame. So that's kind of like an elite thing. And the most elite portion of all the athletes that we've recognized over the years is our athletes of the decade.
Yeah.
We started in 1990 to 99. And fittingly so, our first athlete of the decade was Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn.
When he was named our athlete of the year in 1984, that was my first year in the club. I went up to him I said, everybody knows that Tony Gwynn was one of the greatest contact hitters in baseball. His lifetime batting average is about 313, something like that. I may be off a few numbers, but I went up to him and I said, we could name you every year, because he did it, 6 conferences. And he said, you know what? He says, being honored one time is enough for me. Make sure you spread it around.
Great guy.
Wonderful. The second athlete of the decade from 2000 to 2009 was Misty May Trainer. Undoubtedly the volleyball player, both indoors in her collegiate career, and of course 3 gold medals on the beach in her professional career. And our last one here from 2010 to 2019 was Tony Aceveda, who was named as the greatest water polo player in the world during his peak. He dominated at Wilson High for 4 years and then went on to Stanford, won national championships there, and then went on to a terrific Olympic career.
Yeah. I just want to, set the scene at the banquet that, it is wonderful that the high school are recognized, and we have all different types of award categories. But to hear the Hall of Famers, right? And there's usually how many? Two a year?
We get anywhere from 2 to 4 depending on the year. It's been averaging around 3 to 4 every year for the past years, and we try to include one emeritus that has passed on, and we failed to recognize while they were alive. So
right, and then we have their family speak. Those speeches are just phenomenal. If you're not doing anything, May 23rd, I'm telling you, it's
some of them are so. I've been to every banquet since I've been a member, but the one that sticks out to mind most recently was Tony Hill. Because when I called him to let him know that he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, his response was, "I thought I was already in the Hall of Fame."
I heard I didn't make it to that year, but I heard he was so phenomenal.
It was unbelievable. The place was packed. All these former old poly athletes and stuff. It was just.
It was great. Chase Utley. I was there for his. He did the cutest story about him and his dad practicing baseball. Yeah.
And when we had the banquet, we used to have the last the Hall of Fame is our last portion of the evening. But we've switched it around because, we learn over the years. And now we do it towards the middle so that these wonderful speeches that these athletes give, that the young athletes in the rear can
hear. Yeah.
Because they address the youngsters in the crowd. And we want the youngsters to see, these fine athletes that have preceded them. And there's also members of our Hall of Fame that are not athletic, as you mentioned, Jim McCormick, who was a sports journalist, and we have others for what we call the community portion of it, because they do good stuff in the community over a period of years. It takes a long time to
when's Mike Gardabacio? He's got to get a little bit older, but he's so there.
But there's and to honor the efforts of individuals in the community, we give out community awards and recognize that. It could be, the mom and pop that's running the hot dog stand for 20 years at the local baseball field, or somebody that's been working with kids throughout her.
Yeah, we always ask, you're on the board and you talk to people and you say, do you know somebody, right? And so everybody, it's sort of like a drawing in of people who should be recognized. But and we do give a lot of scholarships. So I wanted to talk about the banquet is on June 20th.
Yes.
Okay, and middle school May 23rd. And so let's talk about the Mayor's Cup and the scholarships that raises and all that.
That's September 15th. We're very pleased. We throw annually put on the Mayor's Cup golf tournament. We put on a golf tournament for many, many years. And when we connected with the mayor, we advised the mayor, if he'll come in with us, we'd like very much to present the scholarships, mayoral scholarships to individuals throughout the young people throughout the community. And we've done that. And on an average, we'll give out $15,000 to $20,000, $25,000 worth of scholarships, every year in the mayor's name. Mayor Garcia has been exceedingly generous with his time and his support. And, and who benefits from it? It's not the Century Club.
Yeah,
it's the kids.
Yeah, that's what this whole club is about. It's to support the athletes' scholarships and
we, you've been a member for a number of years. I've been a member for a long time, and you just kind of get you don't really determine, or you can't figure out the impact that you're having until you get outside people come in from other cities and they see what we're doing and they say, nobody else does this. The coaches, we get coaches from all over that come and gravitate to Long Beach for, the college and the university and the high school. And they said, nobody does this, because some people recognize their high school. Some people recognize a certain sport. We recognize them all. And we go from middle school all the way
city college. We always have the city college coaches come in. And
over the years we've raised and given away in support of amateur athletes in Long Beach over $3 million, and sent people off. One of our first big send-offs for a person of any stature was Billie Jean King. And we raised money and sent her off to Wimbledon for her first Wimbledon.
That's awesome.
If you ever hear Billie Jean talk on any speech that she gives, unless it's specifically dedicated and she's restricted in some of the time, she always mentions Long Beach and she always mentions the Century Club.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, and Misty May the same way.
Yeah. Just gave her a lot of support too. There's so many things that we do. We could probably go on forever but we do run help me with the marathon where it's a fundraiser and that we run the beer concession, right? Correct?
Well,
I'm sorry, I don't know.
You're right. Several years ago, the good folks that run the marathon. When you run a marathon, and trust me, I've not run a marathon, so I don't know. But the individuals who run the marathon, when they get through, they go into the garden area and they're given a free beer because that's, I guess, traditional after a marathon. And in order to orderly conduct the beer distribution, etc., they needed an organization that was experienced with that sort of thing. And had a number of members, because it takes about 40 to 50 people to make this happen. And we have been doing it now for a couple of decades. And it's a lot of fun, as you know.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
We recruit our members to go out and work, and they have to get up early. But they, and we also at the marathon we support a water station.
Right. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because that's been my little baby, showing up. I just show up early. I bring donuts. The Long Beach Poly wrestling team comes and they know exactly what they're doing. They take things off that truck and they get the tables all set up. And those kids are so enthusiastic. And that's a really busy water station. right?
Yeah.
Because it's like mile 6. So everybody's in there. And then we turn around and I think we donated to them, I want to say $1,000 for
Somewhere around there, but
somewhere in there for their
we take care of
work.
us and we take care of them,
Yeah, yeah. And so
that's great.
my little plug is I do a document shredding event twice a year for clients and for the community. And so mine is on April 2nd at Cal State Long Beach. The Long Beach Poly Wrestling team will be there unloading the cars. And it's free, but come down, and if you want to give donations, they're trying to raise money for new mats, which are cost of $20,000. So there you go. There's my plug.
We'll give you a plug in our newsletter out at the for the Century Club, because everybody's got too much paper around, and
yeah.
we've used your shredding event, and my wife, she put me to work before that. We're coming in with a couple of boxes,
I know. I always say to people, I'm like, so I made you get organized, right? So you hate me, you love me, or where am I falling here?
Painful. It really is.
But again, I just sort of want to, set the scene that of these meetings, they happen every Tuesday, almost religiously, unless something's going on, from 6 to 7, and mostly held at the Boathouse.
Yes.
And I always love that you've a very tight ship. It starts at 6 and it ends right at 7. And they always have a guest speaker, and it's normally a coach or it's an athlete. And, I think that sports and coach and athletes by nature, their speeches are very motivational. They're very uplifting. And I just think it's a wonderful organization. Just if you just come and just go to the meetings and support it in that way.
Yeah, our meetings start at 6. We tell everybody the fun starts at 5, because they gather and next to where everybody will have a libation ahead of time, and it gives the members an opportunity to interact with one another in a conversational area. And when the meeting starts we say the meeting starts at 6, as you know, it usually doesn't.
It's maybe like 6:10. I want to say, after hurting those people having drinks,
Yeah, but that's part of the camaraderie.
No, it's great. Yeah.
Part of the draw, and we were, when the pandemic hit, our president, our then president, Shar Higa, she said, well, we called a halt to the in-person meetings, and so we started tried doing it on Zoom. Well, that may work for some organizations. It didn't work for us.
No,
we tried. But it just you got to be next to each other, for this club to really operate.
Yeah. But it's back, and shout out for John Morris, right? Is that his name? Yeah, he always used to put the food out. The drinks are really inexpensive.
We owe a lot. The president has the ability to determine where we meet. And we've met since I've been around, and a number of locations around town. And about 9 years ago, one of our former presidents, Ben Goldberg, when Ben was the president, he relocated us to the Boathouse, and it was a wonderful move. We had been at different locations, and the Boathouse is a wonderful venue. John Morris is, as you know, and everybody knows.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's been a great move for us. Beautiful scenery outside.
Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty. You sit there. Sometimes people are talking. I'm just looking out, going, "Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous."
Yeah. And so if you're talking finance and you go to a finance meeting, you're talking real estate, you go to real estate. If you're talking sports, you come to the Century Club, and that's what we talk about. If there's nothing else addressed, if someone wants to get up and give a political speech, they get booted out. They will not be allowed. We've had members in the past join every 4 years when they want to run for office, and then they fade away afterwards. But for the most part, we've had a long-standing cadre of people that keep us going from year to year.
Yeah. I like I said, we were talking the other day before we came live here and saying, to take the position of the president, you have to organize that meeting once a week. It's a huge commitment, but you guys always get somebody comes forward and they always just do a great job. And it's just a,
no, we've had, it's interesting because, in anticipation of our discussion, and I'm this year I happen to be the membership chair, which is a whole different story anyway. So I went through our numbers. Our numbers right now are currently, remember when I started in the club, there were 2 female members.
Yeah, let's go. We're going to talk about the female thing, right? We can get back
Billy
to this.
Vessels and Ernestine Pullman. And
I never knew Ernie was a woman. I've always seen that name. I always assumed it was a man. Oh,
Ernestine,
okay.
her husband Saul was the initiator of the motels up and down, the chain type thing where you call ahead and
Okay.
type thing. And when he passed, Ernie was a tough cookie. When he passed, they literally said, send in his membership, and she said, baloney. She says, it's paid in full for the rest of the year, and I'm assuming it. And for a number of years, she was the only female active member.
Oh gosh, I love Ernie. Gosh,
she was tough. I get chills just thinking about Ernie. She was the best. She owned the Beach and Ocean Air Motel right across from the old Belmont Plaza.
okay.
And when some of our members would get a little sideways with their spouses, Ernie would put them up for a couple of days till he always had a room in the back for old country club members. Anyway, but since then we've evolved. Some of our early female members that I can recall are Joan Van Blum and Susie Atwood were, and as that progressed, we came along. So from those initial 2 members that started, today, we have 295 members. We have 51 females. And they come from a variety of backgrounds. Some of them are former athletes, some of them are real estate agents. Some, they have, and that was the 50. This is a kind of an interesting number. The 51%, 51 members represent 17% of our membership. Which is a reasonable amount for any organization.
A sports organization, yeah.
Yeah, get it, especially a sports organization. However, we have a number of females on our board of directors, and our board of directors consists of a president, vice president, etc. Females represent 36% of our board of directors. So they might have been slow to start, but they're taking over,
That's how it goes.
Our president-elect is Alexis McDonald, who's the daughter of Glenn McDonald, a former Long Beach State Boston Celtics star, and she's going to be taking over next year.
That's going to be great. Yeah, like I said, from 12 years ago, 2010, walking into the Grand and going into a meeting now, it's night and day. It's not even the same organization. We do that inter-service luncheon every year.
Yep.
And we are a strong force in the service community of Long Beach. So,
we draw from all over. So it's just not, and it's not just lawyers or just realtors or whatever organizations have that much like that. And someone asked me several years ago. In fact, it was one of our former athletic directors when he first got here, Vic Seglas. He says, "So you guys meet every Tuesday, every week?" And I said, "Hey, the Rotary meets every week. The Lions meet every week. And he goes, "Yeah, I guess." So it doesn't matter how your week's going. What you've been doing. That on Tuesday between 5 and 7, if you want to talk about sports or find out what's going on in Long Beach or the surrounding areas, you've got it. And quite candidly, it's one of the very few places that you can be shoulder to shoulder and have a commonality with a athletic superstar.
Yeah.
And you're right there as one of their members, and then we have a whole lot of former athletes.
And what happens a lot of times is especially thinking of the high school, but also all of them, Cal State and City College, the coaches come, but they bring athletes with them. So we talk to the coach, but we also talk to the younger athlete. And it's just, like I said, it's just such a positive, fun atmosphere.
Yeah, last Tuesday we had Coach Stephen Barbie from Poly High School. He recapped his CIF championship season. He relayed to us the fact that the NBC called him during the Super Bowl and the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
They were out on the field running the plays. They actually gave them the playbook of the Rams, and Cincinnati, and they were running the plays. And they were doing this so that the cameras could get their angles down and everything. And they told, as the coach said, they told them they wanted them to mimic what they see on the TV every week when somebody tackles somebody and they go like this, or they quarterback, and they had a ball, and they just and one of the other things is, you said he brought one of his athletes with him, and that athlete brought his mother. And when they were talking about everything that was going on and everything, and somebody asked him, because we always hit the athletes with questions. It's just, why is it that you're working so hard? Can you see yourself out at SoFi as a professional? He says, "You bet. That's one of my goals." And they said, "Well, what is one of your other goals?" And his mother was standing right there. He says, "One of my other goals is to be good enough so that I can buy my mother a house."
Oh,
I mean, how good is that?
Yeah.
Here's a kid. He wants to do good, but one of the reasons he wants to do good is he wants to buy his mother a house.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah, I just really like this club, and I like everything we do. I don't know if I'm not that involved anymore. All right. Well, I thank you. I think we touch on everything that we had talked about.
Well, we just we're always looking for members. You can go to our website, www.lbcenturyclub.org. There's a lot of information on there. We have a membership application that you can fill out and send in. And as I said, our membership is $100 a year. If you join between January and June, your membership's paid up for the following year. So you actually get a year and a half bonus. The reason we did that is, we signed somebody up in April or May, and then our dues are due in June.
Didn't sit so well, huh?
By the way, you owe us another $100. So we capitulated that. But it's, so anybody is feeling like that, go online and you can see there's a whole lot of good information. One of our officers has got some interns for us. We're working on our website, so we're very proud.
And just going back to Mike Gardabasio, who's the 562.org, who they write about every sport that's going on all the time. I was saying to Dan before we went on, I'm like, what is the stat? And he said it for the Summer Olympics. Can you say the stat for me?
Oh, sure. Mike, pointed out, Mike and JJ, they went to the 2012 Olympics in London. And then they're big followers of the Olympics. And they said the last Summer Olympics, if Long Beach was a country, we would have ranked 5th in medal count of all the people that participated. You think about that.
Yeah. Long Beach is really special for so many reasons, but especially in the sports arena.
And I love to quote Mike because he's got some great sayings. He says, a lot of cities, if an Olympian drives through their city, they claim them. And that's it. And we're sitting in meetings, with Olympians all around us.
Professional athletes. It's
Bruce
just
Bradley was an Olympian in water polo, and one of our other former presidents, Rich Foster, he was president of the International Water Polo Association. So it's just, and so you get up and you hear these people talk. They're telling you the inside stories.
Right. Yeah.
Bruce Bradley to get up and talk about the 1972 Olympics in Munich when tragedies happened with the Israelis. And these are people that that are just your fellow citizens and fellow members
of Long Beach.
It's really great. Yeah, we're wonderful.
Yeah. So if you go on the website, do you have that Hall of Fame there that they can look at all those amazing names?
Yes, that's on. We're currently updating everything. We got a little bit behind with the pandemic, but we're slowly, not slowly, we're fastly catching up. So we're going to be updating a lot of our stuff. So it might be a little bit dated for a 6 month or a year back, but for a lot of them, it's got a lot of great information.
All right. Thank you so much. I would love to do this when we get closer, once you guys have the Hall of Famers pick, so we could just let everybody know in case they wanted to go to that banquet and see what's who's going to give those wonderful speeches and all the winners. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So it's always great to talk about, an organization that you have great confidence in. And it's a pleasure being with you as always.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.